Hey guys, welcome back for another video, and in today's video we are gonna give our full verdict of the Realme C17, which will launch pretty recently, and by now all the specifications of this phone have been leaked and it's launching on Bangladesh on 21st September. And today in this video we are gonna talk about the Realme C series, the history of C series and the Realme C17, the pros of Realme C17, the cons of Realme C17, the expected price in India of the Realme C17, and our overall verdict. We would recommend you whether you should buy it or not. So let's start. So now we come to the history of the Realme C series. The Realme C series started with the Realme C1, which was hugely popular at the time, and Realme C1 was really a good budget offering from Realme at that time. It made the starting of a brand new series for the budget segment, the Realme C series. It continued with the Realme C2, which was not a big upgrade, but it was good too and looked similar to the Realme C1. Next came a huge upgrade, the Realme C3, which is still a pretty good choice over 10,000. But after that, Realme faced a downfall in the C lineup. They launched suddenly the C11 and instead of caring for the C5. And then they launched the C12 and C15, which were even worse because these phones didn't have as good processor like the Realme C3, although being successor of that phone. So it is expected that these phones will flop. Realme C11, Realme C12, C15 all had the same processor. But this time, Realme C series will have a different processor and a much better processor than all the other processors Realme C series has got till date. And the processors are of Qualcomm Snapdragon. Yeah, you've guessed it correctly. So now let's move on to the Realme C17, the successor of the Realme C15. So this is the picture of the Realme C17. Yeah, it pretty much looks like the Realme 7 Pro, but actually it isn't. We can view a rear fingerprint scanner, which is decent. It is decently acceptable because it's the C series. The phones are expected to be cheap, but if they're good, then they are really good. We can see a quad camera setup, probably for the second time in the Realme C series. Yes, second time. First one it was Realme C15, but punch hole, seeing it first time. Yeah, the Realme C15 had a water drop notch, and all the phones at this price do have a water drop notch. But this one, Realme went a step ahead and offered a punch hole display, and also almost a full view display with slimmer bezels and better colors. And the quad camera design, the design at the rear side is pretty much better than the previous generation Realme C phones. The next thing is the improved camera layout. The camera layout was earlier long shaped design and now it's pretty much improved. The next thing is about the refresh rate, but we'll come to that later. Now let's move on to the pros of the Realme C17. The first pro of the Realme C17 is the 6.5-inch punch hole big display. Now the display was the same display like the Realme C3, the Realme C15, etc. But the screen to body ratio is now of 90% and the brightness has also been increased to 600 nits. And the bezels I can see in the picture has also been shortened in comparison to the previous phones. So this is a slight improvement over the other phones. This is one pro. Now let's move on to the next pro. Now the quad camera, a better designed quad camera will feature an 8 megapixel ultra wide angle lens, which is now mostly seen in normal mid-range or upper mid-range phones as well. The primary camera might not have got a 48 megapixel quad camera. That's a type of con, but it's still okay if you consider it's a C series after all. 13 megapixel primary camera, decent. A 2 megapixel macro lens, that's also pretty common in mid-range price right now, and 2 megapixel black and white lens. Probably they called the depth sensors black and white lens because depth sensors, people don't like to hear that. Anyways, and I really like the design. After we move away from the quad camera setup, we come to the battery. Now like all the other Realme C series phones, but this is a con. There has been a bit downgrade. The battery of 5000 mAh battery it supports. but Realme C12, C15 all had 6000 milliampere battery. So this is an expected downgrade, but it's not a bad type of battery at all. 5000 milliampere battery will easily last one day or more. So battery has been downgraded, but good thing is that it might have a USB type C port with 18 watt of super fast charging, and at that price that charging is pretty decent. So now let's check out its specs at a glance. These are the specifications of the Realme C17, and this packs a Qualcomm Snapdragon 460. Now this is totally an entry-level processor. It is not at all comparable with the latest processors like Qualcomm Snapdragon 710, 12, 30G, 32G, and it is not even comparable to the old Qualcomm processors like 625 or 675, etc. But this is better than the other 4 series processors like the 450, 430, etc. And Qualcomm is also making some 4 series chips with 5G, but this one doesn't support 5G yet. It has 6GB RAM and 128GB storage. A rear fingerprint scanner, I've already told you about it, and so these were the basic specs of this phone. Now I will tell you its pros at a glance and cons at a glance. The main pros of these phones are a decent camera, because quad camera they're giving at a cheap price with ultra wide lens, decent punch hole display, 90Hz refresh rate, slimmer bezels in comparison to other phones. It is not a notch display. It's a better design, a better look, a better brightness as well. And 5000 milliampere battery is decent battery. I'm not taking it as an advantage, but I'm taking the USB type C port and the 18 watt charging as an advantage. So total there are 6 advantages of this phone. Now let's talk about disadvantages of the phone. But before we proceed, please let us give you a quicker reminder. Please do subscribe our channel if you like it, and do leave a like at the end and comment us down about your verdicts about the Realme C17. So now let's come to the cons of the Realme C17. The first con is the processor. If you compare it with the previous MediaTek Helio G35, obviously Realme C17 is an upgrade, because G35 was nothing but the Helio P22 nothing else, which wasn't a good processor at all. But in comparison to the MediaTek Helio G70, which the Realme C3 had, this phone almost stands equal. Not a big upgrade over it, but the rest specs are an upgrade because of 90Hz refresh rate and better brightness and a better battery with quick charging. So that is a type of a pro and a con as well, because the processor, it is not at all improved. The next con is of the rear fingerprint scanner. Realme C12 and C15 also had the rear fingerprint scanner, and so this is we could have expected a side mounted fingerprint scanner, but not possible right here. The third pro is the selfie camera. Yeah, it's a punch hole selfie camera, very good, but it's an 8 megapixel selfie shooter like the Realme C15, not an upgrade. They should have provided at least a 12 megapixel or a 13 megapixel selfie camera for better value. Now the fourth con is about the battery. I've already told you they should have given a 6000 milliampere battery. They shouldn't have downgraded the specs. So these were the pros and cons of the Realme C17. Now let us come to the price. Now to be really honest, we have no information about the price, but still we can guess the price. In India, the price should be around 11 to 12,000, considering the Realme C15 was priced around 9,000, or no, not 9,000, 11,000. Yeah, so Realme C17 can be 12, 11 or 12,000, and for the 6GB plus 128GB variant we can easily expect 12.5 thousand or so. So now, should you buy it at this price? Well, if you properly see, if you could save a few more rupees and buy a better phone like the Realme 6 or the 6i or the Realme 7 also, then they would provide a much better value than the Realme C17, to be honest. Yeah, I was talking about many good things about this phone, but if you compare with those phones, although those phones are a bit old, but they do offer better gaming specs, better refresh rate, no, not better, same refresh rate, and better side fingerprint scanners and better camera layout, 64 megapixel or 48 megapixel cameras they offer. But we do not think, but if Realme C17 was priced at 9,999, then it would have been a killer deal. but we know because of GST and etc. Realme C17 can't be priced that low. So hope you like this video, and do like, share, subscribe and comment, and we'll be back with our next video soon. So till then, bye and thanks for watching.